dedicated to faithfully delivering value by interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today I'm interpreting the book The 13 Steps to Disappearance, a mystery novel by contemporary Japanese novelist and screenwriter Takano Kazuaki. What's the most impressive mystery novel for you? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. And the novel was published in 2001. Takano Kazuaki won the Edogala Rampo Prize, the top award in Japanese mystery fiction, with this debut work. It was praised by writers like Miyabe Miyuki, who called it a courageous attempt full of the author's passion. In 2003, the novel was adapted into a film, The 13 Steps, directed by renowned Japanese director Nagasawa Masahiko and starring former popular idol Sorimachi Takashi. The film gained major attention and was screened at the Sundance Film Festival that year. The Chinese translation was first published in 2003. Since its retranslation in 2020, it's been reprinted 17 times in just 2 years, showing its huge popularity. So, what kind of story does this novel actually tell? Next, I'll outline the book's main content, but I need to give a heads up about the interpretation. Mystery novels inevitably have spoilers. I'll warn you before spoiler parts. Feel free to skip if you mind. The original is told in the order of the case investigation. To make it easier to understand and grasp the plot, I'll reorganize it chronologically. Around 8:30 p.m. on August 29, 1991, in Nakatsugo County, Chiba Prefecture, Japan, a retired middle school principal and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Kanemoto Kohei, were murdered at home. Their wallet, passbook, seal, and murder weapon all vanished. The suspect is a young man named Kiwara Ryo, because he was found unconscious near the crime scene after a car accident, with the victim's blood and wallet on him. Although he refused to confess, claiming amnesia during the incident, the court still sentenced him to death under the law. Later that same day, in Nakatsugo County, a high school student named Mikami Junichi and his girlfriend received counseling from local police. Counseling is a Japanese police system for questioning juveniles suspected of illegal activities and giving requirements and advice. Mikami Junichi had a knife wound on his left arm and carried 100,000 yen of unknown origin. His girlfriend seemed dazed, but since there were no other suspicious points, the police didn't investigate further. 8 years later, on August 7, 1999, in a Tokyo restaurant, Mikami Junichi got into a dispute with a young man named Semura Kosuke, who died from injuries after falling during the scuffle. And Junichi was consequently sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. By 2001, Kiwara Ryo, sentenced to death, endured constant fear of execution while continuously appealing. Hearing this, you might wonder, why hasn't Kiwara Ryo been executed after 10 years? This relates to Japan's death penalty system, which I'll detail later. One day, Kiwara Ryo suddenly recalled climbing up steps during the incident. He thus applied for a retrial using this new clue. Note, this description opens the novel, and the steps become a crucial clue for both the case and entire book. Meanwhile, Junichi was paroled early due to good behavior in prison. Parole is Japan's lenient policy, allowing early release for remorseful, well-behaved inmates to reintegrate into society. During parole, offenders undergo supervision by volunteer probation officers, high-morality community members who observe and document parolees' conduct. The deceased victim, Kanemoto Kohei, had once served as a probation officer. If probation officers discover violations during parole, offenders can be sent back to prison. After release, Junichi reported to his probation officer as required. To earn money and help his parents repay debts, Junichi joined former prison officer Nango Shoji in reinvestigating Kiwara's case for a law firm. Nango supervised Junichi during his imprisonment. Years working in prisons gave him unique insights into Japan's criminal justice system. He genuinely wanted to help remorseful offenders reintegrate into society. Having observed Junichi's genuine repentance in prison, Nango chose him as a partner. Before investigating, Junichi fulfilled parole requirements by apologizing at the home of Samura Kosuke, the man he accidentally killed years earlier. Samura Mitsuo, the victim's father, was cold but didn't harshly scold Junichi, even serving him tea. In their investigation, Nango and Junichi first searched for the steps but found none near the crime scene. Next, they examined the crime method and found a death row inmate who had killed multiple people similarly. But Kohara Seisen firmly denied involvement. Then they shifted to investigating the crime motive. After interviewing Kiwara's employer, Ando Suguo, and colleague Minato Daisuke, they concluded Kiwara, under supervision for petty theft, was highly unlikely to murder. He was likely framed, and the real killer was probably one of Kanemoto's parolees. Kanemoto's record of the parolee's misconduct caused his murder, but with many parolees supervised, which one? After stakeouts and inquiries, they located Terao Yuichi, one parolee supervised simultaneously. He had an alibi but revealed Kanemoto's estate was 100 million yen. Absurdly high for a retired principal.
Where did this money come from? Could it relate to the case?
Nango wanted bank records but lacked authority to investigate. After nearly 3 months, they'd made no progress tracing the source. The investigation seemed at a dead end.
Meanwhile, Kiwara's death sentence procedures advanced. His execution could be ordered any time.
At the critical moment, a local revealed Zogenji temple, dedicated to Fudo Mio, buried by landslides nearby. They found the steps and dug up the victim's seal and a small hatchet. But shockingly, the hatchet bore Junichi's fingerprints, not from digging since they wore gloves.
This revelation stunned everyone. Mango faced police scrutiny while Junichi became a wanted suspect.
So, was Mikami Junichi the Kanemoto's killer? If not him, who was the real murderer? How did the killer frame Kiwara Ryo? What happened 10 years ago with Junichi and his girlfriend in Nakatsugo County? Next, the story enters the mystery-solving phase. The following part contains major spoilers. If you haven't read the original and mind spoilers, I suggest skipping this part. Continuing from 12 minutes and 50 seconds, Mikami Junichi evades police search and re-enters the temple alone. Inside the statue of Fudo Mio, he finds another small hatchet and the victim's passbook. Sala Pakamon. Seal. The transfer records in the passbook show the victim's huge deposits came from Kiwara Ryo's employer, transferred in installments by Ando Suguo. It turns out Ando Suguo was sentenced to death for murder years ago, later commuted and paroled. After release, under Kanemoto Kohei's supervision, he reintegrated into society and became a successful entrepreneur. Kanemoto blackmailed him, using his criminal record to extort a huge fortune. Unable to bear it, Ando killed him, mimicking the method of a serial killer at the time. Ando also arranged in advance for Kiwara Ryo to help dig near Zoganji Temple to bury the passbook, seal, and murder weapon. Even without the car accident, he would have found a chance to kill Kiwara Ryo and plant evidence like the wallet and bloodstains on him to frame him. The small hatchet and seal with Junichi's fingerprints found earlier were forged by Samura Mitsuo to frame Junichi, hoping to get him sentenced to death to avenge his son. Just as Junichi figures out the whole truth, Samura Mitsuo suddenly appears with a gun, trying to kill Junichi on the spot. But the gunfire and heavy rain trigger another landslide, burying both under mud. Meanwhile, Nango Shoji cleverly cooperates with his twin brother to evade police surveillance. He seeks shelter from Ando Suguo, but inadvertently notices Ando doesn't wear a watch or tie. Earlier, Junichi had mentioned this trait indicates the person might have served time in prison. Combining this with their earlier suspicions, Nango instantly realizes Ando is the real killer. At this point, Ando reveals his murderous intent to silence them, but in the struggle, Nango kills him in self-defense. Finally, Junichi is rescued and cleared of suspicion. Although Nango is detained for killing, it was self-defense, so he should get a reduced sentence. Kiwara Ryo is also exonerated and cleared of the charges. Samura Mitsuo will be prosecuted for attempted murder. It seems like a happy ending, but in a letter to Nango, Junichi reveals hidden truths about his own case.
On August 29th, 1991, Junichi's girlfriend was raped by Samura Kosuke in Nakatsugo County. Junichi was stabbed in the arm while trying to rescue her.
Junichi contacted police afterward, but was told rape cases required victim reporting, and only virgin rape was considered true rape, with minors receiving light penalties. And so, rape, considering his girlfriend's situation, Junichi had to drop it. Later, during treatment for the knife wound, the doctor reported to police, leading to their counseling. Afterward, his girlfriend's personality changed drastically, with multiple suicide attempts. Filled with hatred towards Samura Kosuke, Junichi planned murder. When they met 8 years later, he bought a knife to carry it out. Though Samura died accidentally, Junichi felt it was deserved, showing no remorse for his murderous intent. He betrayed Nango's expectations for his redemption. Ultimately, both Nango and Junichi said they'd carry the guilt of killing. Living on would be like serving a life sentence without parole. This concludes the main plot of the 13 Steps to Disappearance. Next, I'll briefly outline the narrative features, then focus on the work's themes. Mystery novels heavily emphasize narrative technique. While not perfectly executing all elements, as some reviews claim, it excels in several aspects. First, its content elements are novel. The extensive focus on capital punishment offers fresh perspective for general readers. The opening details death row inmates facing imminent execution daily. Their terror and anguish where footsteps outside could cause breakdowns are vividly portrayed. It then outlines Japan's execution process, from sentencing to implementation, including officials' perspectives. Most novel is Nango's detailed recollection of personally conducting 2 hangings. And the execution chamber is an unremarkable 2-story building, half underground. Executioners stand on the 2nd floor with 3 buttons. Only one activates the trapdoor. 3 buttons exist so no executioner knows who actually triggered the death. 2 other executioners blindfold the criminal and handcuff them behind their back. 2 more executioners enter the chamber to place the noose, ensuring the prisoner's feet hang 30 centimeters above ground after the drop. This requires adjusting the rope length based on height beforehand, with repeated practice sessions. These details greatly satisfy readers' morbid curiosity. The protagonists acting as ordinary detectives is another novel element. Typically, mystery detectives are either professional police or genius sleuths. But Nango and Junichi lack official authority or expertise. They can't even access parolee lists, let alone bank records. So how do they investigate? They use ordinary methods, casual questioning, calling in favors, enduring stakeouts in blazing sun, observing, and brainstorming. Just like regular people tackle problems, readers see themselves in them, ordinary yet occasionally insightful, creating approachable relatability.
Compared to imposing genius detectives, this offers fresh perspective. But the novelty isn't fabricated.
All death penalty and legal depictions are factually grounded. Author Takano Kazuaki conducted exhaustive research, consulting experts and academic sources on every detail. This greatly enhances the work's credibility. The second narrative strength is rich foreshadowing. Mystery writing is like posing riddles. Clues must be clear with no hidden tricks. It emphasizes fair play between author and reader. Great mysteries hide crucial details in plain sight, testing readers' observation and deduction skills. In the first half, the author plants subtle clues within case details and investigations, seemingly casual remarks that become vital foreshadowing. For example, it's mentioned repeatedly that Mikami and Samura families share the same trade, but the Samura's own advanced laser molding machines that can replicate almost anything. If readers catch this detail, they might guess what's going on when the weapon with Junichi's fingerprints shows up later. Some foreshadowings are meant to mislead readers. For instance, the author shows the Kanemoto's murder and Junichi's police counseling happened same day, same place, closely timed, This syncs with later suspicion of Junichi to mislead, though clever readers might spot this trick. When they smugly believe Junichi's innocent, the author pulls them into another puzzle. What exactly happened to Junichi and his girlfriend that night? As a social school mystery novel, this work is more acclaimed for its thematic depth. Before discussing the work's themes, let's briefly cover mystery fiction's Honkaku and social schools. Both schools originated in Japan. Japanese mystery fiction evolved from Western works, starting as short stories and developing into novels after World War II. In the 1940s to 50s, Japanese mystery writers focused on traditional puzzle works like Edogawa Ranpo's The Murder on the Floor and the Two Copper Coins, or Yokamizo Seishi's The Black Trunk. Japan calls traditional orthodox things onkaku, so these works are termed the Humkaku school. Onkaku values tricks and detectives, winning through intellectual games. Standards are logical rigor or trick novelty, ignoring realism or meaning. From late 1950s, Japan's economic boom exposed societal issues. Honkaku couldn't satisfy readers' realism needs, birthing the social school, setting stories in broad social context to explore politics, economy, and human darkness. Examples: Matsumoto Seicho's Points and Lines, Zero Focus, A Castle of Sand, and Morimura Seiichi's Proof of the Man. This school's writers focus on social issues and dissecting motives, elevating Japanese mystery fiction to literary heights, as seen in The 13 Steps to Disappearance. As a classic social school mystery, it shifts focus from logic and tricks to reflecting societal realities, winning readers with its relevance and depth. Now let's analyze this work's thematic intent, what social issues the author reflects, and what thoughts it provokes. The most prominent is Japan's death penalty system, broadly summarized into three aspects. First, the time between death sentence and execution. Through Nango Shoji's explanation, we learn Japanese law requires execution warrants within 6 months of final sentencing. Detention centers must execute within 5 days of receiving warrants. Yet Kiwara Ryo, sentenced 3 years post-crime, remained unexecuted after 7 more years. This isn't an isolated case. Records showed Japan executed 83 death row inmates between 2000 and 2018.
Execution timelines range from 1 year to 19 years and 5 months post-sentencing.
Since inmates are only notified 1 hour before execution, prolonged waits intensify psychological torment. Second is the death warrant issuance process. Per the book, Japan's process involves 5 departments and 13 officials, the 13 steps. And this is one meaning behind the book's title. Japan's justice system focuses on rehabilitating offenders and eliminating societal threats, termed purpose punishment theory. Hence, systems like parole, guardianship, observation, and the pardon system exist. Extreme caution toward executions results in cumbersome warrant procedures. First, the Ministry of Justice's Criminal Affairs Bureau reviews proposals for possible halts, retrials, appeals, or pardons. The proposal then cycles through correction, rehabilitation bureaus, assessing remorse, pardon requests, back to criminal affairs for execution orders, then through Secretariat, deputy ministers to the final approver. The Justice Minister makes the final decision, but officials often avoid this executioner role due to politics, religion, or personal views. Even when execution orders reach them, they won't sign, dragging it to the next term if possible. This leads to delays lasting years or even decades. Third is commutation and pardons for death row inmates. The book notes Japanese criminals showing clear remorse, like weeping in court, are paying victims' families high compensation, or enshrining victims' memorial tablets in jail and worshiping daily, may get reduced sentences. Japan also has a pardon system, where the cabinet can exempt or reduce sentences. Pardons stem from noble ideals, correcting unjust sentences when legal rigidity causes injustice. They can rectify errors, even for death row inmates, potentially reintegrating them into society. Yet the government doesn't disclose pardoned individuals, citing privacy,
Creating public safety risks and enabling corrupt politicians to operate secretly.
Judging genuine remorse versus fake compliance is hard. Vague pardon criteria create inequities like Ando getting commutation while others get executed despite remorse. Another death row inmate was executed despite showing remorse. Beyond capital punishment, the book exposes other Japanese justice system flaws. For example, prison discipline is overly simplistic and brutal. Beyond forced labor, it's physical abuse, failing the rehabilitation goals of purpose punishment theory. Result? Japan's 48% recidivism rate as mentioned. The probation system is flawed too. Parolees fake good behavior to fool volunteers, or collude to deceive authorities. Overprotecting ex-convicts' privacy creates safety risks, even enabling extortion by probation officers as depicted. So through these issues, what viewpoint does the author express? The most obvious theme is whether to abolish the death penalty. Human lives hang in the balance. This issue can't be reduced to simple binary positions. Through different characters, the author shows perspectives. Victims and families see execution as punishment and retribution. Human rights groups view it as torture that violates human rights and dignity. Justice Ministry officials see approving executions as a heavy burden. Executioners like Nango carry guilt, while Junichi's evolving views best reflect the author's journey. So, Nango, initially Junichi's timid nature and prison experience made him fear execution, even worrying his investigation might condemn someone. And investigating with Nango, he learned Japan's execution process and Nango's firsthand experience, especially after his life or death confrontation with Samura. Though imperfect, he came to see its necessity, because allowing vigilante justice would trigger endless cycles of revenge. To prevent this, society needs designated actors to bear this responsibility. The Fudo-myo statue at Zoganji Temple serves as symbolic evidence. As chief of Buddhist wisdom kings, Fudo-myo overcomes obstacles with immovable resolve. His fierce expression wards off evil spirits, making them flee in fear so practitioners maintain virtuous focus. Thus, Fudo-myo serves a deterrent role in Buddhism. By incorporating Fudo-myo, the destroyer deity, for those beyond compassion, the author implies capital punishment serves the same legal deterrent purpose.
For irredeemably evil individuals, lawful execution remains necessary.
But the author looks beyond execution itself to the systems behind it. He critiques Japan's justice system, cumbersome procedures, inconsistent sentencing, negligent laws, and ineffective probation, urging societal reform for true fairness. So, debating the death penalty's existence is superficial. Systemic reform is the true essence. Building deeper, the author explores human nature, emphasizing reverence and responsibility. He identifies the core problem: modern erosion of reverence and responsibility. The buried Fudo-myo statue symbolizes diminished deterrence. This imagery reflects modern Japan's vanishing societal reverence. Without reverence, people discard rules and act without restraint. Thus, youths like Samura Kasuke commit atrocities freely. Even elders like Kanemoto, Kohei hypocritically engage in extortion.
Without capital punishment's deterrence, society would deteriorate, making true offender repentance impossible.
While reverence applies to the public, responsibility falls on governing officials. Responsible police wouldn't have abandoned leads like Kanemoto's wealth or other parolees, hastily closing Kiwara's case. Responsible prosecutors and judges wouldn't have issued death sentences with incomplete evidence. Responsible Justice Ministry officials wouldn't have neglected duties. Overthinking without action rendered the 13 steps meaningless. Finally, let's discuss the novel's title. The Japanese title, The 13 Steps, echoes Kiwara's memory while holding deeper meaning. The 13 steps represent Japan's bureaucratic procedures, from sentencing to execution. Thus, in Japanese, the term also means execution by hanging. The title refers both to physical steps and the death penalty's bureaucratic machinery. It objectively presents themes without imposing views, inviting reader debate. The Chinese edition added disappearance, the 13 steps to disappearance. Disappearance could mean lost physical steps, abolishing capital punishment, or Japan's hollow systems. Officials' inaction. Interpretations vary. What's your take? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. All right, that concludes our interpretation of the 13 steps to disappearance. Reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.